guys. Welcome back. For some reason, I always have like this weird jam in my head. But anyway, welcome back, you guys. Welcome to Thrive Thursday. Thrive Black Boy presents Crucial Conversations. I am your host for tonight's amazing conversation. I am the author and the founder of this amazing adventure that we're on together called Thrive Black Boy, and I'm so excited that you are joining us tonight. Now, if this is your first time joining us in a crucial conversation, I need you to do a couple of things for us. I need you, one, to like, okay, give us some hearts. I also need you to share, and I need you to comment along, talk with us as we dive in and really have an amazing conversation with another special guest. This guest is actually really special and quite dear to my heart, and I'm so grateful and excited, elated, all of those things to bring her to the stage in a second. But before I do, I definitely want to shout out all of the amazing ladies and women that have been on this March Women's Month journey with us. So today is March 31st. So we are at the end of our amazing journey. As you know, or if you didn't know, each week this month we featured various special guests, but they were all women, and so we really wanted to highlight the amazing work that the women are doing, not only in our community here locally in Nashville, but also around the world. So shout out to all the amazing women as we conclude our Women's Month and dive right back into April. Now, excuse my clearing my throat. There's something in it. But so tonight, our special guest is none other than drum roll. Is there a drum roll? Her name is Judy Jones, and Judy Jones is just so happens to be one of my family members. She's actually my cousin. But she is an amazing, phenomenal librarian. Do you hear me? Okay. Librarians are still needed, necessary. They are a necessity to the community, and they are important. So Judy Jones began her library career as a children's librarian at the Mott Branch Public Library in the same community where she lived and grew up as a child. So I think that that's so amazing that she started her career where she grew up. But at a young age, she knew that she had such a love for books, and she soon became the branch manager and received several awards for the successful execution of so many unique and diverse library programs that she offered at her branch. She received a legendary service award for the Give Me Five reading initiative for children, and eventually given the opportunity to help plan and create a library that would not just be a safe haven for children, but a transformational and culture wonder for her babies. She also has received her master's degree in library and information sciences from the University of Pittsburg, and eventually accepted a promotion to the Heatherdowns branch of the Toledo Lucas County Public Library. Shout out to Ohio and all those places up north. Her dedication to the literacy goals for children remains her driving force. Okay. Once again, her dedication to the literacy goals for children remains her driving force. She belongs to the Ohio Library Council and the American Library Association. So, as you know, tonight we are talking about none other than literacy and why it is so important. So, don't forget, like, share, comment, and without further ado, Judy! Woo! How are
Hey,
you?
London, Dr. London.
Oh, it's so exciting. I'm so excited to have you. How was your day? Listen.
Excellent day. Very good. It could have been warmer. It could have been warmer, but I am in the Midwest, so
Yes,
I accept it.
you're up north. It's cold. Ohio? Whew. Listen, it was cold down here in Nashville, okay? I was like, why is it so cold? Okay. I had to find a jacket and shake it out of the closet and put it back on because I had put them up. Um,
Okay.
but we're so excited to have you tonight. Thank you for joining us. So we're going to dive right in. Tell me why, or tell us why. Why did you choose literacy? Why did you choose the librarian route? Why was that so important to you?
Because I love to see things transformed. Especially when the odds are against it, I love to see it turn around and be fantastic. And I can remember like little children coming in. There was one little boy, Chris, and he couldn't read and his little feelings were hurt. And we let him lay right by the reference desk, spread his big book out, and he learned brown bear, brown bear. Of course, he was memorizing it, but eventually he was able to learn it. And now to see how much he's grown and how much he can communicate and how well he's doing, it all starts from a good foundation, letting children learn to read so they can express themselves and they can have an understanding about what's going on in their life and in the world.
Wow, that is amazing. I remember one of the first books that my children learned how to read too was also one of those easy books that you can recognize the pictures first, and then you're like, oh, okay, I see the repetition. I got it, right? And I love that about literature, right? I love that about
Right.
reading is it builds their confidence.
Mm-hmm.
It is so amazing to see kids be able to be like, oh my gosh, I'm reading this. Now, really, you repeated is and I and the 4 times, but yeah, you are reading that, okay?
You're reading, baby. You are reading.
You
Someone was reading in my office just this week, a little 8-year-old. And to see her go when she was 4 when I got to Heatherdowns, and now she's 8, and she was actually reading to me, and it was like, oh, my heart.
oh, yes. Oh my gosh. Literacy is so, so, so important. I can't talk about how important it is. So, how do we get our Black babies to understand that it matters, that it's important? Because when I was in the classroom, when I was a teacher, oftentimes they could care less about picking up a book and read, right? They want that instant phone or the instant gratification of a game. How do we get them to understand that literacy matters?
So, kids do what they see done. So if they're in a home where there's reading going on, then
Mhm.
that's an advantage for them because then they fall in love with reading and then they continue to grow. So I was fortunate enough to be in a house where my mother and father were readers, my mother especially, but she was in a house with her dad, who was probably born at the end of the 1800s. And the man loved to read. He always had books. So, of course, guess what? She loves to read. And then she passed that to me. So, I think that, and to my brothers and sisters, I think that that's how we get children involved is we have to turn the switch on for parents and for the community to say, we got to get these kids reading because we are going to be in a losing battle if all they know how to do is this. You know what I always say? One day they'll have to take care of us. So I want them to know more, to do more than slide.
Yes, 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 yes.
So maybe that's the reason I want them to read so bad.
But
I
I,
will say I was in the hospital
uh-huh.
and a young customer came into nurse came into my room to take my um, blood pressure, everything.
Hmm.
And I was mad because I wanted to go home as usual. And I looked up and it was one of the little kids who had grown up at the library. And I started screaming because how often do you get to see the full process?
Wow.
So many times they may do well or not, and you don't know that. But I
Yes.
can remember this little Gerald John daughtery right there all the time in the library. His mother would call, is he there? Yes, he's here. Yes, he's here. I knew his name. Yes, he's here. And now
Mhm.
here he is saying, ma'am, let me have your arm. I was like, so they ran down and the nurse was like, it's my patient. I know her. I know her. She's okay. She's
Wow.
just happy. And it is. It's wonderful because we have the potential. I'm telling you, we are strong people. When you consider what we've been through in this country,
Hmm.
going through the diaspora and still thriving,
Yes. Yes.
it's amazing.
Hmm.
And so, what it takes is not just a parent. we can't leave it up to the parent all the time, because often the parent is working, maybe at McDonald's, maybe at Target, maybe they get off at 2 o'clock in the morning. They're not going to get up and get their child to the preschool story time. They don't have the advantage all the time of being a stay-at-home mom. I see plenty of stay-at-home moms now. They're
Yes.
at those preschool story times religiously. So it's up to all of us to
Mhm.
participate. So we can encourage the reading, but what we need to do is remind these children that they have value, because they're in a society that convinces them early that they have no value.
Yes.
They're told, they see it on television. As they grow older, they lose more and more value. And then when they're fighting in the streets and killing each other, they go, people say, well, how could they do that? How could these young boys kill each other? Well, you told them their
Absolutely.
whole life they have no value.
Yes.
So when they see the boy that they shot, they see themselves.
Mm.
And there's an article, you really need to look at this. It's called "The Eye Tracking Technology Shows How Preschool Teachers Have Implicit Bias Against Black Boys." So they told these teachers that they were going to, they wanted to measure and see if they could tell who's going to be the troubled children. But they were actually looking at their eyes to see
Hmm.
where they went first for the trouble. The majority of time, they were looking at the black boy and saw him as the trouble, even before he does something. That's a preschooler. So you're telling me that the bias that he has to deal with at 2 or 3 already telling him that, you're bad. How many times did they pull him out early because of teachers who are from areas where there are no children that look like them? Oh, we can't deal with him. He's too this, he's too that. He's creative. He wants to be challenged, but you mark him as somebody who is bad. And the parents, they say, okay, put him in special classes. They're not challenged. They're certainly not getting the reading that they need. So it's us that we have to get involved. It's parents saying, no, you're not going to put my child in a special group. You're going to
Absolutely.
work with them.
Absolutely.
You're going to work with them, and I'm going to work with them, because this is a
Absolutely.
partnership. You can't
Absolutely.
blame just the teachers, and you can't blame just the parents, but it's about working together. And it's about grandma just telling their child, honey, I love you.
Yeah.
You're beautiful. You're
Yes.
a beautiful black child. I love you.
Yes. Yes. I appreciate one of the things that my mom does is, she takes our kids for the summer. Thanks. So she takes them for a couple of weeks. They do their little summer travels and they are always at the library. And I appreciate it because not only does it get them excited about, that aspect of it, it draws their attention, but they look forward to it. And we're at the point now where TJ, my oldest son, I only have 2 kids, slow down. But TJ, my son,
Now,
he loves to read, and he
yeah.
loves to read anything from novels that drive him in, that really grab his attention, to
Hmm.
comic books. And he loves it, and it's so important, because I don't in 2019 there was a study, right, where they studied the national report card average, and what they found was that only 15% of African American eighth graders were at or above their reading proficiency level. And
Hmm.
that is an astronomical number. I mean, we're in the 20th century, and that there is just a 15% of eighth graders who are reading at proficient or above. And so those numbers are so daunting, right? And it's like, what are we doing to combat this? And then I even think about, the whole third grade prison to
Pipeline.
pipeline reading thing
Pipeline of
that they
prison.
have.
Hmm.
How a student not reading at his or her grade level by the end of third grade, do you know that they are 4 times less likely to graduate from high school? And
Sure.
so when you think of things like this, it's like, what are we doing as a community to combat these types of things? And how
Hmm.
are we really, really pushing the notion that literacy and literature and reading is so vitally important.
Mhm.
Um, because we were talking about this earlier, but you were telling me these numbers. What are the numbers that students need to hear? A professional family hears how many words a child?
215,000 words per week.
Wow.
Baby in a home with a professional, they hear 215,000 words per week. Working class, it is 125,000 words. So you're almost cutting that in half. And then if you go down to where we struggle, the struggling families,
Mm-hmm.
those children only hear 62,000 words a week. It's just not enough to compete. It's not enough.
Wow. Wow. So a professional family is considered what though? What qualifies as, or what is a professional family?
Probably at least one parent with a college degree.
Okay. So one parent with a college degree, their child or their baby in a home hears at least 250,000 words per day or per week.
210,000 words a week.
A week. And our lower socioeconomical families, those who might be living on the
62,000,
poverty line, they only hear 62.
a third of that.
Wow.
And then, so here we are. We're faced with these statistics that say that our kids are not getting what every other child is getting, and we can argue about it all day long, but these neighborhoods were created on purpose. We can
Yes,
talk
they
about
were.
redlining, and we can talk about what happened after the GIs got back and the people that were able to buy houses and build wealth and build those communities. It's real. So the system is made for you to lose, but we don't have to.
We don't have to.
We
Say that
don't have
again.
to.
We don't have
We
to.
don't have to because we
No.
aren't losers. I mean, the thing that's so exciting to me, I have to say, is when I look at like the social media pages and I see all
Hmm.
these young people that through the pandemic have started businesses and they're doing it on their own terms because we've always had it in you. Just because you heard 210,000 words as a baby should not limit you as you grow forward. What we need to do is let people build that wealth, and then that next generation that comes along, they will hear those words. They will be trained and be exposed to so much because it's about exposure. It really is. And we talk about literacy and about reading, but that is the development of your mind. When you get to hear these words and when you're that young, then you're able to start making decisions and understanding and using your cognitive skills. And that's what's so important about the sounds as a baby. I mean, you can actually, they found that you can do this while the children are in the womb. You can
Yes,
start that early
yes, yes.
because they can respond to that. So it's so sad because if a parent is going through a traumatic pregnancy, it has an effect on the child. So if I had a grandmother come in to me, she said, my daughter's expecting twins. What can I do? Because I'm so sad because I don't know if they're going to make it. And I
Wow.
remember giving her the book about Dolly Parton and the coat, her overcoat
Mm-hmm.
her mother made for her. And she said she read that book to them and read that book to them, and it settled in their mom's stomach. They would settle down. And when she brought them in at like 16 into the
Mm-hmm.
library, tears, tears. Because
Oh,
that's how reading, how that whole process can influence the mind.
yes. Yes. Yes.
There are things that we can do. It's not over.
Absolutely. It's not over. And it's about exposure. I think one of the biggest things that I have always really, really pushed with my babies is if you don't know how to do something, A, you figure it out, right? But B, I always talk to them like I would talk to an adult. And I remember in the beginning, I would have friends be like, London, those, they don't understand that. Well, then I'm going to break it down to them, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to use that word. Right.
Right.
So the other day I was like, TJ, I know you're anticipating us going, but chill, bro. And he was like, I was like, yep, let me say it again. So I said the sentence again. And then I was like, okay,
Mhm.
now use your context clues. How can you figure out what I'm talking about? I know you're anticipating us going here, but I need you to wait. Like, right, we're going to get there. And he was like, oh, I'm being anxious. Right. And the
Very
wheels
good.
started going. And so to me, it's so important that we use the bigger language and we don't dummy down language, that we keep our level of expectation here and
Mhm.
require them to meet us. Not, okay, let me say these words that they might not know yet. No, we have to expose them to the language. That
Mhm.
sets the foundation, right? Because now I can only imagine him going to having a conversation with his friends, and being like, hey, I know you anticipating us going to PE, but we're good, now he has given that to somebody else. And to me, I believe that's how it starts, right? It's about not only influencing them early, but getting them to have that language and to use it correctly with
Right.
their peers.
Right. Exactly. And that comes from a professional family.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
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 So
Yeah.
when the child doesn't have, a professional family, I always saw myself at Mott as having a role. And it was to be the gateway between the life that they didn't know to the life that they could know. So I was at the desk, and my sister would love this story all the time. She'd say, "Tell the story." There was a set of kids, and I swear to you, they sounded like they would say, "If we did, did it, do it." They just the language was so I couldn't hardly understand them, but I got
Mhm.
to understand them. But one day the phone rang and I picked it up, and the one was staring in front of me, and he said, "Hello, you've reached the Mott Branch. How can I help you?" In his mind, I spoke another language, but he studied me so that he could sound what he thought was just like me. I laughed so hard. I didn't, but you don't know who's watching you. You don't know
Right.
who you're influencing.
You
And so
don't.
that's why we have to be on our toes, and that's what I love about being in the library, because you're able to assist and help and transform.
Absolutely. And that was one of the main reasons, or that was also a driving force of why I wrote the book Thrive Black Boy. When I was in the
Mhm.
classroom, when I was a teacher, and I taught these second grade kids who lived in the lower socioeconomical, places. And
Mhm.
they came to school malnourished and so many other things.
Right.
I'm so sorry. They came to school malnourished and so many other things. And it was so important for me to have representation for them
Yes,
to understand
representation.
that it matters, for them to understand that there's a book that looks just like them, that there are
Mhm.
things and that there are things in place that will allow them to be successful, that I want them to see
Right.
what they look like in these pages, and not just, okay, here's our curriculum, here's what we're being forced to do, but
Mhm.
that they see themselves. Because other studies are saying how we know that there's a lack, right? We know that these kids are not even writing proficiently, but what are we doing to combat this? And I feel like
Right.
those questions continue to remain unexplored, even though occasionally, okay, it's on the news again, right? We hear about it again, that there's a high number of African American kids who aren't able to read, adequately. But what are we consistently doing to combat these things? And I think that
Right.
you hit on so many key things. It takes a village, right? So,
Mhm.
hey, if I'm a stay at home mom and I'm going to the library, I'm gonna tell my friends, hey y'all, I'm going to the library, right? I'm gonna make sure that people are knowledged, or know about these things, and when these events are happening. But most importantly, that we are taking the time to read. Uh,
Right.
one of the tasks that all parents should be tasked with, especially if you have children. I don't even care if they're in high school. they need to read. And if they don't understand how to read yet, or if they're unable to read, read to them. But
That's right.
reading at least 20 minutes every night is so critically important for not only their success, but it exposes them once again to words that they might not have previously known.
That's right. And even if the parent has difficulty, because we find that a lot,
Yes.
the parents would have difficulty, so they didn't want to press the kids because they didn't want the kids to know. But
Right.
if the parent takes a beginner book and just tells them the story, because that's getting them to think, go through the pictures and tell the story, that eventually when they begin to read, that will extend the process. Well, you want them to be, we want our kids to be thinkers. We want that brain working early as possible. We want them to be thinkers and communicators, and it makes a huge difference. So get a book. If that's all you can do is read the pictures, then do that. But if you need to go back to school because you want to work with your child more, do that too. I love these programs now that have the kids and the parents going to school at the same time.
Yes.
That's progressive thinking.
Yes.
That's thinking, because if you want to change the children, you've got to change where they are.
Yes. Yes. And I believe also that, you know, this whole pandemic, that's a whole
Yeah.
hoop in itself. But I really believe that the pandemic, especially like ours, I don't know when Ohio might have gone back, but we had children who potentially had at least a year and a half gap of, and when I say gap, they weren't in the classroom setting, right? They
Right.
were virtual, but at least a year and a half of, I'm not physically sitting in the classroom, but now everything's on the computer. Right. I don't understand what I'm doing. Hey, I'm in kindergarten. I really don't know what I'm doing. I don't even know how to use a computer yet. But we saw such a gap
Yeah.
due to the pandemic, and it brought unprecedented issues in education, and it really highlighted the neglect, for lack of better words, that is surrounding the Black community,
Hmm.
especially those students or those kids who on a regular basis their norm does not look like I'm going to a school and I'm getting that exposure, right?
Right.
The pandemic limited their norm and created a disconnect
Yeah.
between the community, school, and education. And so now we're trying to scurry through
That's
and,
up. Get caught back
combat
up.
these things. And so one of the biggest things is I just want to make sure that any of our viewers who are watching, you can share this information with somebody else, but that we're also empowering our parents. And so, just like Judy said, if you are a struggling reader yourself, hey, look at the pictures. Oh, you can always pick up a picture book and make up your own story in your head and let your imagination soar. Even as a child, they can still do
Mhm.
that. They don't have to know all the words. Pick it up and let their imagination take off, because you'll be surprised at the words that they'll pick to use to
Right.
describe something or to describe the story. Um, Man, we could talk
I
about
just
this.
want to tell, I just want to tell you that the other thing the pandemic did was show parents just how valuable teachers are.
Hey, that
Because they
part.
were like, there's a difference. I'm not a teacher. I've heard that so many times. I am not a teacher. I see the difference. And so I think that they went, when the kids were allowed to go back to school, at least they had a greater respect for the profession. And I have to say that that's why I like Avid Elementary so much, because it really exposes what education and what
Shameless
people are
plug for
doing
Abbott
here.
Elementary, okay? Because it's hilarious.
It is hilarious.
Yes.
But she really, I mean, they're struggling. I thought it was interesting recently. The show was parent teacher conference, and they said parents don't come, because in our community, education it's important, but I gotta work, I gotta cook, I'm taking care of grandma, I'm taking care of my nieces and nephews.
Yeah.
There's so much going on,
And if I
so
don't
they
work,
don't often make it.
we don't eat. So I don't care. Here's y'all's problem. Figure it out. That's why I go
Right.
to school. You tell me what to do. I used to hear that all the time. You're the expert. Didn't you go to school for this? You tell me what to do. Ma'am, I am. That's why I need you to come into the building. Well, come on in. Okay. Let's have this conversation. But yes, so many of my friends were like, when is school starting again? Listen, I can't do this.
Right,
He not
right.
listening to me. And I think like they wanted the pandemic to end quicker just to get rid of them. Like, listen, Charlie gotta go, okay?
That snow not gonna bother them. They can make it through that snow.
And what I'm seeing now is that when there is a different level of respect now in the classroom for teachers. So
Mhm.
when we have to call parents like, hey, water bottle was in class today, just being completely disrespectful. He did what? Oh, we don't do that. Like to me, they're a lot more concerned, and
Right.
they're understanding, and they are quicker to apologize for their child's behavior, and 9
Good.
times out of 10 it's corrected because they understand the importance of education. I'm trying to teach, right? I can't be continuing to tell your little son water bottle to sit his behind down and shut up, so I think that I appreciate the pandemic, just like you said, to the extent of educators are now valued and they understand
Right.
that there is a lot of worth in what teachers are doing in the classroom.
Mhm.
Well, listen, it's been 32 minutes. That is our time. It has flown by. Sheesh. It has been, I mean, I blinked up and I was like, dang, 32 minutes already. But it has been such a privilege and
Oh,
an
no problem.
honor to have you on tonight. I appreciate it. I have literally enjoyed our literacy conversation because it's been so good. If you have not already done so, as you know, you guys, you still have the opportunity. Please don't forget to like, share, and comment. And make sure that you're following us on all of our social media outlets, which
Absolutely.
are Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed so that you get notified when we do go live. And lastly, but not least, don't forget to visit our website, www.thriveblackboy.com, to purchase you a copy of the book. Well, Aunt Judy, it has been great. But that's our time.
All right, darling.
Well, thank you.
It
Until
was
next week,
it
you
was
guys.
fun.
Have a good one.
Yay. Get a library card. Bye.
That part.